7 o'clock. We had an appointment at 7 o'clock and it's 7 o'clock now. So why don't we go ahead and get started?
Let's.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Who Gets Your Legacy, Family or Government? My name is Wayne Clements, and I will be your facilitator for the evening, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for taking some time out of your evening to join us, and we hope that you come away with some great information after this evening is over. The last time we held this, the Leafs were in the playoffs, and we were up against a Leaf game, so we're happy that the Jays have made the playoffs, and we're also happy that there's not a J game on tonight that we're competing with. So this had been on, if we were doing this Saturday, I got a feeling there wouldn't be too many people here. So we have some amazing panelists who are all experts in their field, and they're standing by to share their wisdom and knowledge with you. So who am I? Again, my name is Wayne Clements. Together with my business partner, Andrew Bolton, we run a real estate team out of our Aurora office. There are 5 of us on the team, and we service most of the Greater Toronto area. And in the last couple of years, we've sold a little over 85 million in volume, and we've helped a lot of people relocate. Our client base consists of first-time home buyers, move-up buyers looking for some more space, right-sizers who are looking to move to something smaller or get out of home ownership altogether, and investors. It's a very diverse group, and that's what we really love about our job. Now, this seminar came out of 2 things. One was structuring my 88-year-old mom's estate, and the other was all the different scenarios that we see in real estate where we're helping people buy and sell. And the real estate transaction can be a very joyous occasion when people are moving up due to weddings, babies, new jobs. And sadly, it can also be a not so joyous occasion. We were dealing with things like death and divorce. And what makes it a lot worse is an estate that's not structured properly. And then when the estate is not structured properly due to an absence of the will or powers of attorneys or estate trustees, it gets a lot messier and takes more time and more money to settle the estate. And what makes an already very stressful situation even more stressful for the survivors. I experienced this directly. My mom passed away suddenly in May. My mom was of relatively good health. She was not ill and she was not in the hospital. And she went from planning to get her haircut for our grandniece's baptism to not being with us anymore. It was very sudden and very shocking, and a reminder to my whole family that life changes suddenly and that none of us is getting out of this thing alive. Now, fortunately for my family, we had done a lot of work with my mom, primarily from doing this seminar, and at least we weren't burdened with a financial mess on top of the emotional stress. And our goal for this evening is to introduce you to some industry experts who will touch on the key points of estate planning and give you some direction on how to protect yourself and your loved ones, and introduce you to some options on how to manage those estate assets with products like reverse mortgages, bare trusts, and some segregated mortgages, so that your estate or the estate of your loved one transfers easily and avoids as much probate tax as possible, because the government likes their share and none of us like paying the government. So should be a good session. There'll be some great information here, so sit back and relax. So it's going to break down. We have 3 presenters with us. Our first presenter is Mike Smith from Smith Rogers Financial. Mike is a certified life underwriter and financial planner. Our second presenter is Stephanie Codsey from the Codsey Mortgage Team, and she's going to talk to us about reverse mortgages. And our third presenter is Damer Varanchik, and Damer is a lawyer who owns his own law firm. Each will have a short presentation of about 20 minutes, and then we'll open up the chat line for a Q&A, and our goal is to be wrapped up with you all by about 8:30 at the latest. So if you'd like, you can put your questions into the chat, and we'll address those at the end, and hopefully we get to everybody's questions. So let's get started. Well, let's welcome our first guest. It's Mike Smith is our first presenter. Hey, Mike. Mike is from Smith Rogers Financial, and he's a certified life underwriter and a financial planner. Welcome, Mike.
Hey,
There we
Wayne,
go.
how are you? I hear Andrew in the background. Thanks, Andrew, for being my tech whiz. I always actually, you know what? It's beauty. What I love about these seminars, and we've done a handful of these now in the last couple of years, is that I learn things. Gives me affirmation about some of the strategies that we use for our clients, or even I pick something up from Steph or from for Damer and or from yourself. And that's what I enjoy about these things. It just forces me to go back and make sure that I've my story is straight, and I've got all the facts.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's good
you know,
info.
38 years in the industry, and you're always learning.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike. How long have you been doing what you do and the services you provide, and where do you do those services?
Sure. Well, you know what? If we just jump into our presentation, I think
Yeah.
you'll see some of that. Um, our organization is based in Aurora. I live in Newmarket. Lived in the GTA all my life. We have clients across the GTA. We within our organization. Within our organization, between my partners and myself, and we have three partners in the organization, we have over 70 years of experience. And one of our firm's pillars when it came to devising how we worked with our clients was never prescribe something to our clients that we wouldn't do for our own or prescribe for our own parents or brothers or our sisters. And that is, yes, that's a lot better. Thank you very much. And that's always been our guiding light when it comes to developing strategies or implementing strategies for our clients. Um, the next slide actually is our service menu. And what I wanted to touch on in the service menu, and there's lots of things on the service menu. These are the things that we, Smith Rogers Financial, we believe um, we're able to deliver for our clients. We've been doing this for years, but we want to focus more on estate planning right now in tonight's session. But just to give everyone a bird's eye view of, we are multi-dimensional. There is a huge menu. It's like walking into Fran's restaurant downtown Toronto, where you've got 50 different items on the menu, but it doesn't apply to everybody. That's why I'd rather just kind of focus on the middle one, which is estate planning. And one of the things I can tell you about our service menu is it's very interactive, and our clients are the ones who tell us what they need. It's interesting because they when they first meet us, like any financial planner, they don't know what they don't know. But if you at least you lay out the menu options, then based on their where they are in their life, they may say, "Oh, actually, you know what? I need to talk to you about this." And what we do is we check the boxes as we go through it according to the complexities of the client. So with time in mind, so we're just going to touch on some estate planning takeaways, and I'm very happy to make sure that everybody gets a soft copy of this. So there are many tools and strategies that you can use to transfer wealth, and as I said, we're going to touch on two. One is life insurance, and the other is a letter of wishes. Letter of wishes is an interesting one, and this is something that we've been implementing with our clients for a number of years now. But let's talk about life insurance first, because that's the most interesting one. Not really, but most people don't know life insurance because it's a risk management tool. So if I buy a house and I have a mortgage, and if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, I'd have to replace or wipe out that debt for my family so they don't lose the house. Well, that's what people refer to as term insurance. Um, but when it comes to planning for somebody's estate, using life insurance but converting it from term insurance into what's called permanent insurance is really it allows the client or the owner to have life insurance that will provide a lump sum of tax-free money that can be used to wipe out debt, transfer wealth, or pay taxes off, so that other things can remain whole, i.e., a business or a family cottage or a family compound. It can pay the taxes so that the leftover or the family that's still standing, they don't have to. So when it's employed as part of an estate plan, sometimes known as cascading wealth strategy, really what you're doing is you're taking about 30 to 50% of the actual gross death benefit, and all you're doing is plugging that into a policy in itself. So for example, if I had, we just did one of these things up, I have a client who he knows he's going to need about $1.5 million in a death benefit in 15 to 20 years. He's in his mid 60s now. So what we did was we basically generated a program that if he just plugged in from his current investments into a tax shelter life insurance policy over the next decade, it would actually translate into over a million five net of cash, or sorry, in tax-free death benefit to the end user, the beneficiary. So that money would grow tax-free and it would be paid out later as a tax-free benefit. So life insurance has been used for decades as a tax-effective vehicle to transfer wealth between generations, be it your children or your grandchildren, as a gift with no tax consequences. And making sure that it's structured correctly, I think you need to make sure that you have a qualified life underwriter that is going to be able to make sure that it is done according to what's needed. So let's talk about the letter of wishes. The letter of wishes is an informal document. It's like a wish list that somebody could actually draft. It's not legally binding. It's not there to replace the will. And Damer will reaffirm that. It's absolutely not there to replace the will. But really what it's there to do is to give the flavor and of where that person wanted that their personal properties to go. When I say that, we're not talking about real estate, businesses, cottages, anything like that, or RRSPs or anything along those lines, but it's more about mom's or grandma's diamond ring. It's dad's collection of hockey cards, that kind of a thing. And if it hasn't already been distributed while the person was alive, the letter of wishes or the wish letter really states your intentions of who should inherit specific items if you haven't already distributed. So, in regards to funerals, a letter of wish can provide some preferences regarding to the type of service you'd like, the music you'd like to have played, the cocktails you'd like to have served, scripture or poetry that might be you would prefer to be read, or type of burial or cremation that you wanted. These these kind of go outside of the will because these are your real wishes. I know my dad wants to be buried with his favorite golf hat. I personally want to get buried with one of my jerseys, and a hockey stick. Everybody's different, but that's what the letter of wishes really can help play is it can play a role. It can be your voice. It could also advise of any prepaid funeral arrangements or prearranged services, and who to call beyond the executor, i.e., my cousin Nancy, or this guy that I used to play hockey with. He'd want to know about this. It really is there to give the person a voice when they're gone. And while your will is necessarily written, it has to be written in legal terms. The letter of wishes can allow you to speak in your own words and voice the reasons why. So we're helping our clients understand that, and that is something that a lot of our clients are actually drafting. And when we facilitate our family meetings with our clients, that is something that they're bringing to the party, which is fantastic. They never even thought about laying it out like this, so it's a win. It's just another added value. Let's talk about family discussions. I know that my family has a family meeting with my mom and dad. The reason we do it every year is because it reconnects us with what's important to our parents. It's a checkpoint to see if anything's changed in their lives or in their attitude. It also confirms mental capacity. As we get older, that's important. Mental capacity, physical well being of both the parents and your siblings. And by the way, as you heard, I said parents and siblings. Um, our spouses aren't invited to this because hopefully, they have their own parents. But this is not about us as a couple. It's about our parents' wishes. That's ultimately what this is about. So it's critical to allow your loved ones to speak freely, and it's important as the person who's involved in driving this. And this is something that I started recommended to my folks probably about 6 or 7 years ago. Um, it's there to frame conversations. Our job is to frame conversations so that it's a partnership versus mom and dad, here's what we want. We want to have a working relationship and have good, healthy discussions. And it's easier to do that when you have a dedicated time. So even if it's something as, hey, the first Monday in the month of May, we're going to get together We're leaving our phones off. We're going to schedule the time to talk when people are more alert, relaxed, and ready to talk. For my family, it's at the end of the day at my mom and dad's place, and it usually involves a beer or a glass of wine, and pizza is a must. And it's that way. It's more of a family meeting. It's more of a family dinner than it is a family meeting, and it helps relax people. So um, we do that on an annual basis. We have a note taker that happens to be Wayne's sister, Wayne's wife, my sister, and we take notes, and that's our reference points for the following year. We have to-do lists in that, so we have action steps, and we have things for them to consider. It's not about, once again, it's not about the kids. It's about the parents. What's important to them. That's how we. That's how we approach it. Um, and we're going to learn lessons from other people's lives. So using other people's experiences helps actually break the ice sometimes. And if a family has never done one of these things, maybe it's a conversation with your parents one time or another, or with your kids saying, "Hey, you know what? So and so at work lost his mother suddenly, and here are the things that they wish they had answers to." Well, this is your opportunity to maybe stage something like a family discussion. Discussions are so important, and it's interesting. These are ongoing things. Other things that we recommend you consider is don't wait till they're on their deathbed. Don't wait till you're on your deathbed. Don't wait till you're sick. Don't wait till they're sick, because now you have a time constraint. Maybe you have a mental capacity constraint, and you don't have time on your side. And so one of the things that we believe in is trying to do this earlier, because in some scenarios, life is complex. The basic stuff like, where's my RIF money going to go, or where's my RSP going to go? That's pretty simple, because you can use beneficiaries to roll that over to a spouse if they're surviving. Um, the house, that's pretty straightforward too, and Damer will talk about that, I'm sure. Um, so as time goes on, we maybe have, or the parents, or even us, might have a declining capacity to understand some of these complex items. So I suggest you don't wait. This is something maybe you put on your annual wish list for yourself and your families. And I can tell you that it's really cleared up a few things for our family. And then at that point, who are you going to call? And not to bash anybody, but I'm going to suggest that if unless there's a multi-purpose or multi-discipline type of organization that you're working with, um, then they may not have the ability or the capacity to do something like that. And that's where Smith Rogers Financial sort of holds itself out as a unique entity providing value to their clients. Do beneficiaries of a life insurance plan get all the money, or is it taxed? Great question. So life insurance is tax free. Um, Now there are certain, and that's a general statement. So if you have a life insurance policy that you're holding within a corporation, there are certain attributes and certain measurements that CRA will look at and say, well, how much of this is actually uh, tax free? But the vast majority of that would be tax free, the death benefit. But generally speaking, mom and dad buy a house. They have a life insurance policy that gets paid out because one of them sadly dies. That money is tax free, if it's especially if it's term insurance. Thank
Okay.
you very
Well,
much, Andrew and Wayne. Thanks for having me.
Thank
thank you,
you.
Mike, for being here and bringing some great information. And that whole thing about a family meeting, it's amazing how many that it's the topic is so taboo.
Mm.
And some people just don't really want to have that conversation. So I think that's great advice to sit down with your loved ones and have that conversation.
If it helps anybody, I have questions and a worksheet that people can use. So feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to provide that worksheet as a template for people to use to prompt questions.
Love it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
some questions in there that some people may not want to address.
Sure.
right away without being prompted. So
And
Yeah.
you
I think
you
that's a
may
great
have to
idea.
nibble around the edges for a while, eh, Mike? Like, it may
Oh,
have to
big
be a
time.
soft opening before you get to the
Oh,
meat.
there's a lot of soft openings. That's
Yeah.
okay. You know what?
Yep.
If it's worth doing, it's worth doing well, and you got to take time.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
And
Second guest is Stephanie Codsey. Welcome, Stephanie, who is a mortgage broker. Her and her sister Marissa, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening, run the Codsey mortgage team. So, hello, Stephanie. How are you?
Good, good. Happy to be here. How are you doing?
We're doing great. This I've got to see.
Awesome.
This is I've seen stuff earlier today because we do some social media filming together, and
Twice in one day.
like, what a day. This is a great day for me when I get to see you twice. So,
It is.
Steph, tell us a little bit about what you guys, a quick bio. How long have you been in business? What services do you provide, and where do you do it?
Yeah, we've been in business for 15 years. I mean, my dad was in it. And so, really, I've been in it since I was probably in diapers. um, but we service all of Ontario and we do everything virtually. Whether you're buying your first home or planning for retirement or just trying to get a sense of all of your options um, for your mortgage, we help you make stress-free decisions on your mortgage and real estate financing. So, yeah, that's us, the Codsey Mortgage team. Yeah.
Nice. And today you're here to talk to us about reverse mortgages, which in the past have had a bit of a negative, reputation, but it's changing. So take it away.
Awesome. Reverse mortgages definitely have changed a lot over the last 30 years. That's for sure. We are obviously talking about generational wealth and how to manage it and protect it. So we're going to go over a few solutions on how to access your equity to help you grow your wealth further, and specifically about reverse mortgages and using that as a tool. There's a lot of ways to use a reverse mortgage, and so I hope by the end of our presentation, you are intrigued and have started thinking outside of the box to see how you could use this tool to your advantage. So there's five main ways to use your equity, and I'm going to be diving into a few of these, but these are kind of your main five. The purchase a property, your lifestyle maintenance or upgrade, renovations, early inheritance, and debt consolidation. So I'm going to give you the quick and dirty on reverse mortgages. So, reverse mortgage, it is still a mortgage. It's like any other mortgage secured against your property. And unlike a normal mortgage, you don't need to use income to qualify for this mortgage. You're qualified based on your age and the value of your home. The older you are, the more you can borrow. So the maximum you can access is up to 55% of the value of your home. And most people are qualifying for around 10 to 35%. The funds you receive from a reverse mortgage are tax free and you can do whatever you'd like with them. You can get these funds all upfront or as an ongoing monthly payment. And then, best of all, you never have to make another mortgage payment again. I know that you're probably like, not making a mortgage payment. Whoa, whoa, whoa. But our main goal tonight is to teach you how to maintain and grow your wealth. So, why would I talk about a tool that, seems like it's going to be worse off? It's not. As long as you keep paying for your home insurance and your property taxes and you maintain the property, you never have to make another payment again while you're alive, and you will not lose your home. In Canada, we have an amazing thing called no negative equity guarantee. So you'll never owe more than what your house is worth. So, a story we like to tell to give you an idea of what that would look like is, let's say I'm a 75-year-old person and my house is worth 800K and I got a reverse mortgage of 400K today. Now, let's say, they put in a dump next door. just all of a sudden. My house is now worth $1, but I have this new reverse mortgage of $400,000. I want to stay in this home, so I continue to stay in this home. But once I die, my kids have to now pay off this mortgage. Well, not really. What it happens is they find out, okay, my house is now worth $1. I can sell it for $1. The lender then accepts $1 and they take the, they eat the cost of that maybe now $500,000 mortgage. So basically, you will never owe more than what your house is worth. Never, no matter how long you live and how much the mortgage goes up by you not making a payment, it doesn't matter. You will not owe more than what your house is worth. So that helps people feel, you're not going to lose your home and you can stay in it forever. All right, so let's get into the juicy stuff. How can you use your equity to buy property? So I'm going to go over the first two ways on here. So a blanket mortgage and downsizing using a reverse mortgage. Blanket mortgage. So normally when you get a mortgage, it's on one property and your loan is secured. A blanket mortgage essentially will provide one mortgage that's secured against multiple properties. And with a reverse mortgage, you can blanket up to 3 properties. You can own more than 3 properties, but the reverse mortgage can be blanketed over only 3 or up to 3. So without selling your home, you can access equity to buy a new property. And it can be whatever you want. If you want a rental property, vacation home, a cottage, you can get a blanket mortgage to do that. I'm going to get into the numbers, and don't worry if you can't follow, but you're interested, we can chat about this further and at another time, but let's get into this. So this is a blanket mortgage. I'm going to show you a couple options. So the first option, let's say, so on this slide, Jack and Sally own their home that they want to live in, and they own a rental property. So the home that they live in is worth $2 million, and the rental property is worth $1 million. They have grandchildren now, and they want to make sure that they can spend every summer together at a cottage. So they found a cottage worth $500K. Option one would be they got a reverse mortgage for for $500K and buy the cottage outright. So there's no mortgage on the cottage. The reverse mortgage can either be blanketed over all 3 of them or just the 2, the current home and the rental property. And then this way you can spend the summers with your grandchildren. You could even Airbnb it out over the winter to get a little bit of cash. But basically no mortgage payments on these properties. Same scenario, and they want to buy the cottage worth $500K, but instead they take out a larger reverse mortgage of, let's say, $1 million, and they blanket it over all 3 properties. So $500K is still going towards the new cottage, and then the extra $500K, you can put it towards renovations. You can put it into your investments. You can also give it as an early inheritance. Maybe your kids want to buy their own home and you would like to give a gift to help with the down payment. You can use this extra cash for whatever you please, completely tax-free. So downsizing. So this, it used to be very popular, and you could downsize and be in the same area and basically, sell your home, buy a new home and not have a mortgage in the same area. But lately, things are a lot more expensive, and generally, even if you're downsizing, you're needing a mortgage. But being on retirement, you might not be able to afford that traditional mortgage. So if you downsize and use a reverse mortgage, you can access that equity and get a reverse mortgage and have no mortgage payments. So I do have some scenarios for this as well. For this scenario, back to Jack and Sally, their current home worth 2 million. And it's harder to go up and down those stairs, and they'd like to get a bungalow. And they found a home that's selling for 650K. It's a bungalow, perfect, just what they were looking for. And they found out that they could actually rent their current home for 4K a month. So they came to this seminar and they were like, how can I keep both properties? They decided to get a 650K reverse mortgage to buy their new bungalow. And they were able to basically downsize, move into a new bungalow, keep their existing property that they can rent out, blanket those two mortgages, as a reverse mortgage, and you have no extra mortgage payments at all. And then that rental income that you're getting from your old home can help be put towards property taxes, insurance, and some extra play money to help with your monthly cash flow. Okay, so and you don't want to deal with tenants. So let's say you want to just sell the property and not deal with tenants. So you can do a normal downsize. Um, this way you can get a small reverse mortgage and or basically sell your home, still get a small reverse mortgage so that you can put extra funds into your retirement savings or again, give a gift with early inheritance. So there's multiple ways that you can do that and use the extra equity instead of just buying it fully outright and using all of your funds that are available to you. We'd like to highlight the 4 other ways that you can use the equity in your home. And we're not going to go too deep into these ones, but the lifestyle maintenance, renovations, early inheritance, and debt consolidations are still very good things to mention to help you think outside of the box with reverse mortgages. Lifestyle maintenance or upgrade. So we have touched on this a little bit. So the funds that you get from a reverse mortgage, you can use however you'd like. You don't have to buy a property. You can fund a vacation. Sometimes one spouse gets moved into a nursing home or maybe just needs some in-home care that tends to be quite costly. So you can use a reverse mortgage to help with those costs. And you can put those funds again towards your retirement savings tax free to help maintain your life or use it even ways to mitigate taxes if you're withdrawing from your RSPs as well. Renovations. This is a big one. A reverse mortgage can be used to help make your life easier by staying in your home. So things like installing a chairlift, a walk-in bathtub, maybe a ramp into your home, all of these cost money, and it tends to be either coming out of your investments or your kids are helping you, where instead you could get a reverse mortgage that can cover those costs, again, tax free. And again, you can also put in, let's say, a laneway house and get that extra rental income as well. So lots of options for renovations. Early inheritance. This one's becoming more and more popular as things have gotten more and more expensive. The funds that you get from a reverse mortgage, I am a broken record here, is tax free and you don't make any payments on the mortgage while you're alive. And currently, more than 50% of first-time home buyers are buying their first home with a gift from their parents. And the average gift lately has been upwards of 150K. Honestly, it's wild. We've even had clients that have had gifts for over 250K. So this is a big thing. A lot of people are helping their kids earlier. And instead of taking money out of your RSPs or investments, you can again take out a reverse mortgage to help your kids buy a home now as an early inheritance. And then finally is debt consolidation. And I know this isn't exactly in line with building generational wealth, but this is about managing wealth, and paying off higher interest debt in favor of lower interest will always save you money in the long run and take some strain off of you and your loved ones. I have definitely given you a lot of information. We're very passionate about reverse mortgages and how they have helped our clients and continue to help our clients and their kids. So if this sounds like something you or your parents may benefit from, you can scan the QR code or just email us or DM us through Instagram. And we'd love to chat about this further with you, even if you're just a little bit interested. Awesome.
That's great stuff. Thank you. So
No
I
problem.
have one question before I let you go. What's the downside?
The downside, honestly, I personally don't think of a downside.
Yeah.
Yes, your mortgage does increase over a period of time, but your equity does increase. And I believe they did a stat, the lenders that do reverse mortgages, and usually it takes about 15 years for the mortgage to actually start eating into the equity.
Mm.
So it's a really great product, and we have seen it help a lot of our clients just become a lot more stress-free, and cash flow is better, definitely. So
Yeah.
there's no downside other than just cutting that stigma. There's a big stigma on a reverse mortgage, and we're hoping to cut that out and with knowledge.
Yeah. I can see it really for like for a parent or parents who wanted to stay in their home, who were determined to stay in their home, with which a lot of people are, and would allow them to fund their life, right? Bring care in, allow them to stay in their property, allow them to maybe do the renovation work they have to do, and bring care in so that they could live out their days in their home and happy in their home as long as they're safe in there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the times people can't afford to stay in their home and they have to go
Right.
either far away from their kids because it's cheaper, or rent, and it's you lose your wealth a lot faster that way. So
Yeah.
this definitely helps maintain that wealth by staying in your home.
I think a good retirement home is upwards of $6,000 to $8,000 a month, I think right now. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. We
Thank
will
you.
pass out Steph's numbers at the end and put you guys in touch if you have any questions. They are awesome at what they do. So thank you, Steph. All right. So batting clean. I'm going to stay with the baseball theme here tonight. So batting cleanup is Damer Varanchik. Damer is a barrister, solicitor, and operates his own law firm. So welcome, Damer. How are you doing?
Thank you, Wayne. Doing well. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Maybe tell us a little bit what you do and where you do it and how long you've been.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Been doing this, oh boy, I'm going to get aged now, about 40 years.
Okay.
I have restricted my practice to that of a solicitor. So I started out my career as a business lawyer. And of course, my business clients would say, well, can you complete my house purchase or a cottage purchase? So I became a real estate lawyer. And they would come back and say, I need to do an estate plan to protect my family. So I learned how to be an estate lawyer. So now I practice in those three areas. And this particular topic of estate planning really encompasses all three areas of my practice. So I thank you for inviting me here. And I know that I gave you from a past seminar an overview of various things that go into estate planning, powers of attorney, and things of this nature. I would ask our audience, because I do not know the cross section, not to really follow it. Read it at your own leisure, because it's more of an overall feel for what's involved. It might give you some pointers, but I'm going to try and give you a broad perspective that may apply to you or your loved ones, so that you can sort of guide yourself as to why you may wish to consult somebody like me in conjunction with Stephanie and or Mike, and even you, Wayne, because on the real estate component, a good agent that's knowledgeable about the industry and different ways of achieving things is a tremendous value. So I provide advice to a variety of people. So we can start with a young or old single individual with or without children. They have specific needs. or you could be a married couple with or without children, with or without parents that you may have a certain responsibility for. You could be reaching that middle age where your children are about ready to embark to university. So we may need to look at that, or we could be dealing with older people that are empty nesters that wish to set up their estate in order to transition the wealth to their children and or grandchildren. And then currently, a large area of my practice is dealing with blended families. That in itself poses tremendous challenges as couples unite. They bring children into this relationship. They have spouses on the other end, and we need to develop an estate plan that will provide protection to all those involved. So my general approach to these things is when people say, well, can you do a will for me? I say, sure. Why don't you come in? Let's have a discussion. Well, what should I bring? Well, maybe bring you a list of assets, list of people that are near and dear to you that you wish to provide for, and then let's have a general discussion. And through that general discussion, when I will ask you a myriad of questions, we're going to start pulling out what your wishes are and maybe how best to achieve them. And out of that discussion, we may need to talk to Stephanie, we may need to talk to Mike, or possibly even Wayne. But it's a creative process. It can be very simple. You know, young couple with young children, basically, or with no children. Well, if I die, everything goes to my spouse. Great. What if both die? What if somebody has brought in more wealth into the marriage than the other person? Our accounts kept separately. More, in my parents' day and age, everything was joint. Mom and dad held everything joint. One bank account, one checking account, one saving account, house was joint. Nobody had a separation of assets. Today, young professional couples are keeping their finances a lot of times separate and apart. That needs to be taken into consideration when dealing with this. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people in their 50s and 60s who are still keeping a lot of their financial affairs separate and apart. Or those things that they have jointly, they're worried what will happen if one of them dies early on and the other party remarries. How will they protect the transition and the transfer of the assets they have gained during their lifetime together to their children, worrying that the new spouse may have a very negative influence on the surviving one and might somehow disinherit their children? It is becoming a very recurring topic in my practice. Believe it or not, I have had people in their 80s worried about this. They've been married for 50 years. There have been zero infidelity, zero reason not to trust your spouse, and yet that concern arises. So we have to start thinking creatively how to ensure that their wishes are honored and that the estate is protected for those that come afterwards. And this is where one simple solution will not work for every individual. A word of caution, like in any profession, there's those of us that know a little bit more through experience than others. Beware of trying to do a will through the internet or people that advertise in, well, $99 special. You get what you pay for, because in any profession, time is money. And if somebody's doing a will for $99, they're plugging in the blanks. They're not even looking at your personal situation. It's a cookie cutter. And they may not serve you well or your family. So invest a little bit of money. It's no different than investing in a good real estate agent. They'll get you a better price than someone who's just going to say, yeah, give me your listing. I promise to get you this. And then within a week, they're saying, well, can you drop your price? You made the wrong choice. So make sure you make the right choice. Feel comfortable with the individual you're dealing with. Make sure that they have some experience, life experience, because that's what comes into it. Whether it's Stephanie or Wayne or myself, we bring life experience. We bring those things that we have done for other people to bear to your unique situation. So these are very important things to consider. There was a question before, how does probate work? Well, probate it's pretty simple. When an individual dies in Ontario, if they have assets that are just in their name and that are in the public domain, in other words, in order for them to be transferred to someone, there is a public agency like the registry office involved or the banks. You must obtain probate, so you must file an application to appoint someone as the executor and then pay a fee to the province of Ontario that is equal to 1.5% of the net value of the estate. So let's simplify this. Individual A owns a house in their name alone, and they die with or without a will. Irrelevant. We have to apply for probate in order to sell that house or to pass it on to a beneficiary. That beneficiary could be a spouse. So individual A is married to B. The house is in A's name alone. It's worth $1 million. They die. B does not get the house automatically. They have to apply to become the executor. They pay 1.5%, which translates to $15,000. Then they go to a lawyer and they transfer the house from the deceased to the executor, from the executor to beneficiary. And there's legal fees involved. That's the basics of probate. And the more assets you have that do not have beneficiaries listed on them, the more expensive it gets. You may have a savings account that will not have a beneficiary on it. If it's in your name alone, the bank will not pay those funds out without a certificate of probate. If you got $500,000 in there, you're paying 1.5%. If you're investing through Mike and you do not put a designated beneficiary, that asset is subject to probate. So the more things you just have in your name alone will cost your estate 1.5%. And that's just the basic to start with. I'm not even looking at taxes. But since we have the real estate component here and a estate component here, and the big thing today is cottages. And I don't know how many of you caught this in the news the other day. A lady lost her mother in January of the year, who was 61. In December of that year, the father died as well. And she was in shock and expressed a lot of anger at Revenue Canada because they came looking for their money. And this is what they said. When spouse A died, the RSP rolls over tax-free to the surviving spouse. All great. But when spouse B, the survivor, dies, whatever you have in your RSP goes into your income in the year of death. So here we had maybe, let's say, as an example of each spouse had $350,000 in their RSP. When A died, B got the whole $350,000. Now they have $700,000 in their RSP. No tax. But B died the same year. So tax is due and payable in April. And when that 700 comes into your income with our tax tables, you're paying 52%. And the taxman has his hand out. To complicate matters worse, they had a cottage. Revenue Canada says that on the date of death, even if the cottage stays in the family, they call this a deemed disposition at fair market value. So for tax purposes, they say we treat it as if the cottage was sold at arm's length. And they say, well, what's the capital gains? Well, the capital gains is calculated on the increase between what you paid for it, plus any improvements that you may have made, and if you have evidence of money that you've invested. So that becomes your capital cost. And then the difference is subject to a gain. Easy calculation, it's 25%. If it goes up in value by $1 million, 250,000, hand is out. Paid in April of the year following your death. Now, people will say, well, you know what, I got the cottage, it's going up in value. I'm going to sell my house, I'm going to move to the cottage, and I'm going to call it my principal residence, because they said, you know, I won't pay capital gains. Doesn't work that way. And there's a lot of rumors going out there saying, oh yeah, you can do that. And it's voluntary reporting, right? Revenue Canada says it's voluntary reporting. But if you don't report it and they catch you, the penalties are horrendous. So what they do is they say, we will prorate the value of that home or that cottage. So if you bought it in year 1, you kept it to year 10 as your cottage, and you had a house that you lived in that was your principal residence, that 10-year period is subject to capital gains. In year 10, you sell your house and you move into the cottage, and you keep that cottage for another 5 years as your principal residence, and then you die or you sell it. The last 5 years are exempt. The first 10 years are subject to tax. So if you're going to be contemplating that, you better employ somebody like Wayne to give you some valuations in terms of what that property was worth when you bought it, what it was worth when you converted it into your principal residence, and then we'll deal with what happens when you dispose of it, either by death or transfer to your children while you're still alive. But even if you gift it, a gift is still considered a deemed disposition for tax purposes. So there's a lot of things that go into estate planning. You have to understand family law, tax, trusts, valuations, a lot of different things. Not every situation is complex, but there are some that are very complex. Now, let me just address one thing that it's becoming increasingly more sought after these days. As property has skyrocketed to a certain extent, although they come down a little bit, Wayne will tell you, they're still high. And an average home, let's say in Aurora, because that's my catchment, although I deal with all of York Region, actually all of Ontario, because with advent of internet and Zoom and everything else, I do deals in Ottawa and Windsor, wherever my clients move. So the scenario is I have an elderly individual, whether it's a mother or a father, widowed or separated, irrelevant. They have a house. They have one or more children. They're a tight-knit family. And they're saying, I don't want them to pay probate. I worked hard all my life. Now I got to pay $15,000 or more to the government to transfer the house to my children. What can I do? So one solution is as follows. And I don't know my audience here, but maybe it's suitable for some of you or your relatives. I will sit down with the children and the parent, and I say, the house is free and clear. We will put you in title with mom or dad as joint tenants. Joint tenancy means if somebody dies, the survivor gets a home. We will sign a trust agreement, whereas the children signed a piece of paper that said this is not their home while the parent is alive. As long as the parent is alive, they are bare trustees. And the house belongs exclusively to the parent. The parent is responsible for all of the costs of upkeep and maintenance and has exclusive use and occupation. The children are not able to sell it. They're not able to mortgage it. They're not able to gift it away because they're bare trustees for the mother or the father when they are alive. Okay. We'll throw in a paragraph that upon the death of the parent, if I have more than one child, the joint tenancy is automatically severed, even though on the registry office may be shown as joint. and they hold it as tenants in common. And this is to make sure that if, God forbid, something happens to a child before we dispose of that property, their children and or family inherit what the sibling had from mom or dad. All right. And now we get into some variations on that, but that's the basic concept. And so in this instance, when the parent dies, assuming I have one child, now they own the home, the likelihood of that house appreciating remarkably immediately after the death of the parent is pretty remote. So if they call Wayne within a month or two after the parent dies and say, I'd like to sell it, he'll put it on the market, and it will probably give him a valuation as to what it was when mom or dad passed away. It would not have gone up substantially in value, if at all. He'll sell it. There is no capital gains to pay. And the child can sell that home without going through the probate process and waiting. Now, it's gotten much better, but I can tell you, last year we were waiting 12 months to get probate. So homes are sitting empty, paying exorbitant insurance costs because insurance will not insure an empty house without some huge premiums. And you've got tax bills and utility bills and upkeep and maintenance. And Wayne would love to sell it, but there's no authority to do so. And so we're trying to find ways of abrogating some of these restrictions. And this is one way of doing it. So what you may pay in legal fees to get it done still is less than the aggravation of dealing with probate and also waiting that time period. Depending on your estate, if you have a business, a corporation that has assets, whole different ball of work, you need a second will. It's called a secondary or private will, which deals with those assets that are not in the public domain. The reason being we avoid probate, but we still need to be able to transition to your beneficiaries, and has a slew of other tax considerations. And I generally work with your accountant, financial advisor as a team, and we come up with a plan because you will have capital gains issues as well that may force a fire sale of an asset that you really wanted to give to your children, but some things sell faster than others. And the taxman has his hand out. And if you can't pay it, you may need that reverse mortgage from Stephanie. So a lot of things to consider. And let me now just transition quickly. So wills are extremely important, but if you die without one, it's not the end of things. Government doesn't get your money. It does go to your family, but it goes in the way the province of Ontario has orchestrated. And you can find that in the Succession Law Reform Act. And I've touched that on in my paper in terms of, how does the money go when you die without a will? What I find in today's day and age with an advent of dementia, it is crucial for, I would say, anyone in Ontario today to have a valid power of attorney for personal care and one for your financial matters. If you become incapacitated and are not able to provide directive to your healthcare provider, you're in a coma, you have suffered a debilitating brain injury that limits your ability to instruct the doctors on your care, it is very important that you have nominated somebody that you trust to make medical decisions for you. They are your advocate. They will ensure that you get the care that you believe and you rightly deserve. And so extremely important that you appoint one or more people to do that. They can act jointly. They can act together or separately. Whoever is around. So if you got two children, appoint both. One could be traveling when an accident occurs. The other one is around. Make sure that you trust them because it's a life and death matter. You could also run into a situation where you have suffered an injury and you no longer have the capacity to deal with your financial affairs. You may not appreciate what you have or how the investment should go. The bank may not want to take instructions because you just don't have that capacity. It is important that you have now appointed somebody that is able to act for you. Now, there's two ways that can take effect. One is, as soon as you sign a piece of document, say, Wayne is my power of attorney. He becomes one as soon as I've signed this piece of paper. Very powerful document. I still have my mental capacity, but he can take that piece of paper and basically do anything that I can do. I have given him full authority because I trust him. On the other hand, I can say, Wayne will be my power of attorney on such a date as a medical doctor or a capacity assessor, as defined under the legislation, rules that I no longer have the capacity to manage my financial affairs. At that point in time, armed with that letter and the power of attorney document, they're stepping into my shoes to make any and all financial decision for me. And let me tell you what's even important in a situation where you have couples. You have a beautiful home, it's almost debt-free, and then you suffer a catastrophic injury, and now you're in a wheelchair, and your mental capacity is diminished, but your spouse loves you, and they're going to take care of you at home with some PSWs, but they need to make certain renovations to your house. A ramp, bathrooms, widen the doorways so you can move into your wheelchair. But there is no money. The savings are just not there. There's a lot of money in the house. You cannot even get a reverse mortgage because you, as the incapacitated party, are not able to sign, and you did not appoint your spouse to have that ability. So now we have to go and hire a lawyer that will go before a judge to get you appointed. And all of a sudden, notice has to be given to the public trustee's office, and they will want to see a financial plan from you. How are you going to manage these assets for this poor, incapacitated individual, notwithstanding that your spouse and you love them? So it can cost you a lot of money by not having this in place. So I cannot overstress. If you're not going to do anything, if you don't want to do a will, don't do a will. It's going to go to your family if you have some, or your nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters, or Uncle Jack that you may not like, but it's going to stay there unless you're one of these individuals that absolutely has no family of any kind. And that does happen. Then it does go to the government. But get a power of attorney done. I'm not a great proponent of the kit that the government of Ontario puts out, but it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. What you get by walking into a lawyer's office is you'll have a really good discussion, whether that's me or somebody else that does that. But they'll walk you through it. They'll give you the pitfalls. They'll explore with you who these individuals could be and the benefits of having it. So that, in a nutshell, is what I do. It's basically provide advice, gained through experience and learning. And I'm still learning. I'm learning from Stephanie. I'm learning from Mike, Wayne. I mean, it's an evolving situation all the time. We learn all the time. There's new situations, new laws coming into effect. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview, an insight as to the necessity and what you can and cannot do. And if you have an advisor and you haven't done a will, I urge you to touch base with them and see if they're able to assist you. And I hope that was of some assistance.
Thank you, Damer. Can you touch just on the what if a bank asks you to sign their form page that you had in there, just quickly?
So banks like their own forms. Read it carefully. Make sure there's no language in there that it voids any other power of attorney you may have. And it is done specifically to the accounts that are at their bank. Now, so if you're dealing with TD, RBC, whatever, they have their own form and they're pretty much identical. When you're appointing that individual to have signing authority over your accounts, try and remember if you already did a power of attorney in a lawyer's office, make sure that that individual is the same one. Sometimes you could have a conflict.
Okay.
But in
Thank you.
general, the bank's power of attorney is very specific and it deals with accounts held at their bank. Now, if you do one in the lawyer's office, take it to the bank once it's signed, give it to them, give them a copy. Show them the original. Don't give them the original. We can make a notarial copy and just say, this is the power of attorney, review it. I don't want there to be any hiccups. They are very reluctant to accept a generic power of attorney for finance that most lawyers prepare. Don't ask me why, other than it's not a document they're familiar with. This is not to be too critical of employees of the bank, but you yourself may have noticed banks have a lot of turnover. There's a lot of young people working right now. They're university students, then they get training in the bank and they progress. They follow their manual. And anything that's not in the manual, they do not understand. And they have to check with their estate department. And that's the unfortunate thing today. We have lost some of the experience as the people have retired. And the younger employees do not have that wealth of experience. They have not seen so many situations. And they will try and tell you that what you have is not good. I can guarantee you that a power of attorney that a competent lawyer drafts for finance is binding on the bank. And if you push it and you go to their head office, to their estates department, they will accept it.
We did have a question earlier, Damer, and we used to bear trust for my mom's, and I'm a big advocate of that tool because the house closes next week. My mom passed away in May, and the property closes next week, and there's probate finality is nowhere in sight. Right. So we had immediate control over the property, and we were able to do what we needed to do and sell it right away. And that's off our, it's kind of out of the way. And we don't know when probate's going to come back. So it avoided months of delay. And plus, the 1.5%, which on my mom's property was in Willowdale, was quite sizable.
Yeah.
But Leslie Proctor had a question about putting her home in trust. And I don't know if there's a difference between the bare trust and a different trust. I don't know. Maybe you can touch on that.
In the United States, you see a lot of stuff on Instagram and Facebook where they're saying, put it into this bare trust. And the concept came out of the US, or put it into a living trust. So when you die, just pass it on to your children. A very difficult thing to accomplish in Ontario. There's some unique situations, and Wayne, yours may have been one. So elderly parent, maybe terminally ill, you can do certain things. What I'm always very careful about is when I am asked to alienate the property from an individual for the benefit of the next generation, that leaves the parent vulnerable.
Mhm.
Not everyone is as honorable as Wayne and his sister or wife or
Brother.
family. Cases and cases and cases have been recorded on misuse. In my own personal practice, I see it where the parent is in a hospital and a child's got a handout to the other siblings that say, can I have my inheritance now? Or I've seen parents appoint a child under power of attorney and the child mortgages the property and takes the money because mom or dad may not need it. We all know what the cost of retirement living is, and God help you if you're sick. There's a 10-year waiting period for most homes that will have assisted living, so it gets expensive. So I'm reluctant to transfer properties on an individual's name unless I have a lot of safeguards in place to make sure that there's financial resources to take care of them should an illness befall them. However, we can create a trust, and there's different ways of creating trust, but you can create a very simple trust that basically the donor, in this instance was Wayne's mother, transfers her property into a trust or to the trustees, and now they own the property but have to adhere to the trust rules. And so they are trustees, they have the legal authority to deal with an asset because they have a trust document. And that gives them the authority to sell the property without mother's consent, whether she's alive or deceased. Because the trust is a living entity in law. It doesn't die. It just has a 21-year maturity date for tax purposes, but then it continues. And I won't get into that 21-year rule. It's going to be too complex and confusing. But yes, you can transfer something into your trust. It is not for everybody. And it's very specific to each individual situation.
First of all, this one's for me actually, but how often does a will need to be updated?
It depends on the change in your circumstances. A beneficiary dies, you get married, remarried, divorced, parents die, you inherit a lot of money. So I suggest to my clients that if there's a change in their life circumstance, they review it. A lot of lawyers will give you that first half hour free, just look at it and say, yeah, your will is still good or it's not good. We should possibly consider changes, but I generally say to my clients, review it every 5 years or when there's a change in circumstance. So, young couple, do a will, no children, all of a sudden they become parents. You better look at that will. You need guardians for those kids. You need a trust. What happens to the estate if you both die? Who's going to look after the children? Who's going to manage the money? When do they get it? A lot of questions to be answered.
Okay, great. So basically on any major life change,
Correct.
essentially. Okay. Um, does the beneficiary of a life insurance plan get all the money, or will it be taxed if owing?
I think, as Mike said, the general rule would be it's tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get complex. We could have a corporation takes out a key man life insurance policy on the owner of the company to put the money into the company so it can be paid out to the children or get somebody else to run it for them. So,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the time, let's simplify it for most of us, it's tax-free.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to speak to a professional to get that all structured properly, but there are ways that.
And I will give you one caution. So, Stephanie probably comment to that, but banks like to sell you life insurance for the duration of your mortgage. So you can go with a bank and they say, oh, listen, for so many, Manulife is a great one that has that insurance. So we will insure your mortgage. So you take a 3 or 5 year mortgage and now you're paying insurance. And if you die during the lifetime of that mortgage, they'll pay it out. But at the end of that term, if you decide to change the lender and you go to another institution, whatever you've paid in that life insurance is gone. Now, Mike's not here, but you can go to Mike and he'll get you a permanent policy that will cover you and your family for probably a greater amount than what your mortgage is for a lesser premium. And that will continue even after your house is paid off.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
decrease. The mortgage life insurance decreases as your mortgage decreases. So yeah, having
So
is
back
better.
to Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've also had a client who, they do those policies on mortgages, the mortgage insurance in particular, from the bank without any underwriting, basically a form, and so they didn't pay out because of a previously existing
Medical condition.
illness. Yeah, and it was construed, and he was very healthy. Anyways, we don't need to get into it, but it's always better. At least I've found we have our own insurance policy through actual insurance that covers everything, including our mortgage. So
Mhm.
that's
And
good.
not just that, you might be able to couple that with disability insurance because if you
Mhm.
can't work for 12 months, you need that income flow coming in. So
Yep.
this is something that a good insurance agent should be able to provide for you to make sure that your family is covered.
Great. Another question here. Bart asks, any insights regarding funerals and final arrangements, final expense insurance versus prepaying funeral arrangements with a funeral company? I don't have any experience with that.
Um,
You
Go
do?
ahead, Wayne.
Go ahead.
Only because my parents were planners. They both they paid for their insurance, or they paid for the funeral, well, years and years ago. And what was really interesting was when we sat down with the funeral home, they actually take that money and they invest it into a special investment fund that's specifically for these prepaid policies. And the policy was actually worth more than what mom and dad than they were going to pay out. So there was a credit to us. So mom and dad's there, it covered this, and this, but it enabled us to buy, like, because it didn't include sandwiches. So we had a credit that we could use to pay off some of the other stuff. So there's an advantage there, I think. And also it allows the person who's buying the policy to get what they want. They can pick their coffin, they can pick the place where they want to go, and they don't leave it up to the family. So I think there's an advantage to it, definitely. Yeah.
Great. Some real life
Just
experience.
to piggyback on that, if you have certain wishes, it's not enough to put them in your will. Let your executor know, let your family know what those wishes are, because 9 out of 10 times you're buried or cremated before the will is even looked at,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I think that's why Mike was talking to a wish letter, I believe he called it.
yeah,
So that,
yeah.
that it's not necessarily a will, but it does give your family some idea on what your wishes are.
I call it memorandum. So in my wills, I generally put a clause: if there's a memorandum left with my private papers, please honor it.
Mm.
Oh, cool. Okay, that when a trust is created to hold assets by a parent, can either the creator of that trust create rules for the future generations that are the beneficiaries of said trust?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep, that's what I thought. That was there. So here's another one. Josephine asks, I have my own home residence, and I was told that at the age of 60 years, I can add my kids to the title, and I also have a rental property as well.
I don't understand the question.
Well, I think you spoke to it that she's 60. She wants to add her kids, tenants in common or tenants,
Joint.
On the bear
joint
trust.
tenants, excuse me. But she also has a secondary investment property. So, are there any strategies around that?
Well, you can do the bare trust that Wayne did. You can
Mhm.
add title and still have a trust agreement. The tax treatment of the two properties is different.
Mhm.
The rental property will be subject to capital gains regardless of what she does upon her death.
Mhm.
The house will pass on to them. If they keep it after she dies and use it as a income property, or one of them moves in, well, then they have a cost which somebody's going to have to determine on her date of death
Mhm.
going
And that's a
forward.
good point. Wayne and I were talking about this. So what we do for our clients is an evaluation on a certain date, and sometimes we have to backdate that, and we do the research on it um, as well. Depending on the scenario and how many people are involved with an estate, we also offer a free appraisal done by an appraiser, so a third party appraiser, not us, just so that everyone can be on the same page before we go to dispose of that asset for them. And it sets everyone's expectation properly, especially when there's more than one person
And
dealing
it's
with
a
these things.
tremendous thing to have if Revenue Canada wants to look at the documentation because you're
Hmm.
totally independent and carries a
Hmm.
lot of weight.
Um, Leslie says, my mom had put $150,000 in a GIC in my name, and my brother's with her name being the second name on both joint accounts. I think this will still have to go through probate. Is that correct?
A GIC will be cashed and put into, well, mom bought a GIC, and if it's the daughter's name, it's hers outright. It's
Mhm.
a gift.
Right.
A bank account that has two names on it does not necessarily pass to the surviving child unless there's a stated intention by mom, whose money it is, that upon her death, those funds flow to the second person that's on that account. There's
Yeah,
a
she
presumption
just
in
added.
law. So this is very important for people to
Sure.
understand. There's a presumption in law that the money belongs to the deceased and therefore flows to the beneficiaries as per the will. And that the second named individual, generally a child in this kind of a situation, is there as a bare trustee.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, she said the GIC is in both names, so
Well, then two
her mom's and
beneficiaries.
hers. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
And actually, Stephanie, this one's for you. If you could just sort of give an overall sort of understanding of what a reverse mortgage is, someone sort of missed what that is. If you could sort of go over what that is
Yes.
again.
Basically, it's essentially getting a mortgage where instead of you making monthly mortgage payments, the interest gets added onto the balance. So the balance of that mortgage will slowly increase. It's just yeah, and also the max amount that a mortgage lender would provide is 55% loan to value, to make sure that, of course, there's lots of equity still in your home as that balance increases. And yeah, if you have any
Mhm.
questions on specifics and numbers, I can help you with that. But that's essentially what it is. It's a way to free up your cash flow and access equity into your home where a lot of people might not qualify for a traditional mortgage. And it's much cheaper and efficient than going with a private or a B lender that can be very costly.
So they they don't have to have employment or income to show, and they don't have to make payments, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
Yeah.
some lenders do want to show enough income to cover property taxes, stuff like that. But there are lenders that will basically give a larger amount of mortgage and then give you lump sum payments twice a year to help cover property taxes and such. If you actually don't have any income and you have equity in your home, there's solutions for that as well.
Okay. And the rates of interest are slightly higher than general market rates because of this product, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's around usually a percentage higher than your traditional, bank A lender rates.
So if you were self-employed, you're used to that because we all get dinged with a percentage higher anyways.
Yeah, yes, you would be very used to that.
And is
Right.
there a penalty on the payout too, Steph? When you finally disperse the mortgage, there's penalty on the payout?
Yes,
Yeah.
so it all kind of depends, but roughly year one, and honestly, this is the higher prepayment penalty. There are options with other lenders that are a little bit lower, but let's say what year one is 5%, and then year two, 4%, year three, 3%, and then years 4 to 10 is 3 months of interest. And then past 10 years, there's no penalty at all. And then, of course, if someone if you go to a long-term care, instead, they reduce the penalties, further, so there's options there, but yeah, there is a penalty like your regular mortgage, there would be penalties.
If I can
Right.
just add one more thing to Stephanie's point, um, she can get you approved for the maximum, but that can be paid out in stages. So you may wish to access, let's say she can get you approved for 500,000, but you'll take 50,000 this year. And then maybe next year you want another 75 or 100. And the interest will only accrue what you borrow. So it's an amazing way of funding your life and retiring in your own home, especially for those individuals that really are not concerned about leaving anything to the children or have no children or family they really need to benefit. And so you can stagger it, Stephanie, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Generally, our lenders like to set it up that way, because we do know that things come up. You know, maybe you need to fix the roof. It's been a long time, certain things like that. But yeah, it definitely takes a long time to eat into that equity. And the amount of people that I have talked to that have parents that have passed say that they would have rather their parents spend their money and be here stress free rather than holding it all into their home and being
Mhm.
stressed by paying a traditional mortgage.
And you spoke to this earlier a bit, but I think there is a stigma because these things were predatory, a few decades ago, and now if we can get around the stigma, they are actually really, really great vehicles for people to age in place, as you were talking about, or fund a lifestyle that they worked all their lives, and maybe they want to go to Italy or something. I mean, that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
they're great vehicles, and the fine print isn't there to hurt them anymore. Where I think it might have been before. I think they earned it, a few decades ago, but these are different kind of products, correct?
Yeah, I don't think they were structured very well back then, and it definitely hurt a lot of people. But
Mhm.
yeah, the way that they are as of today is incredible. Really great tool.
Cool. Last question here is, if I put my retirement payments into a TFSA, will my beneficiaries receive it tax free? Probably a Mike question.
Mhm.
Well, a TFSA that has a beneficiary on would pass to the beneficiary
Mhm.
tax-free.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a tax-free savings account, so there's no
Hmm.
tax on it whatsoever.
Yep.
Now, if you do
Yeah.
not have a beneficiary, different issue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I want to go
Becomes
back
part of
maybe
your
to,
estate,
yeah,
subject
yeah.
to probate.
The importance of a POA, I don't think we can state it enough in our industry. We see a lot of people that don't have proper POAs, and it's really unfortunate. But the other misconception about them is that they are not they have no power after death. So a lot of people when they're selling their homes think, okay, I'm the POA, and a lot of times it'll happen where in the transaction that person may pass, and then that POA ends at that point, does it not?
Correct.
Mhm.
It it
Yeah,
it dies with the grantor.
right. And
Now,
we've also seen it. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, just one thing, since you're touching the POA in real estate.
Mhm.
It's important to know for your audience, they can give a very specific power of attorney to somebody to sell or purchase a property in their absence.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that will empower you to act on their behalf through the POA, whether it's to
Mhm.
sell or buy a piece of land.
Mhm.
They're very specific, right?
Yeah. So may I ask, how do we set up a POA? Well, you go to your lawyer, and generally, in my experience, it's been done with our wills. It's good practice to set up the POAs when you're doing your wills. Um, but super, super important to have. We've had so many clients too who don't have them in place, and then they do become incapacitated, and it's everyone's hands are tied at that point. Um, we always deal with the sort of the real estate side of things, but also with healthcare and things like that. Yeah.
Could
All
not
right.
agree more with you.
Um, I think we made it through all the questions. And again, I do apologize for some of these tech issues. On my screen, it looks beautiful. But apparently, um, for our guests, they're seeing, not the perfect feed. So I'll promise to fix that for the next time. What I will be doing is sending out a video, which will be this feed that I'm looking at. So a lot more polished, where you'll see the decks and everything, and we'll send the decks out as well. In addition to all of our panelists' contact information, so you can contact them directly. And we do encourage you to do so. These are our partners in business, so we trust them implicitly. And thank you guys for being here. Wayne, you want to take us out, or have anything to say before?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank our guests for this evening. Thank everybody for attending, and thank our
Mhm.
guests for the great knowledge. We're hoping you came away with the importance of having a team, and what you probably heard was there's not one size that fits all, other than the POA. That's the one thing is like everyone should have. And you've met a portion of our team tonight, and we trust them. And whether you choose to add these people to your team, that's entirely up to you. We highly recommend that you reach out to all of them and get the advice, because you do need them in your corner. And working with a team is going to save you a lot of money and a lot of stress. And you just can't put a dollar value on that. So thank you, Damer. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Mike, for being here. And thank you, everybody else, for attending tonight. Yeah, we'll be in touch following the session tonight, and we hope you all had value, and call us if you need us.